Profile share via email report story. Luffy thinks he's dating Nami. The realization struck them like a bullet. Their eye sockets popped, their hearts were racing, and they were screaming frantically. In Usopp's factory, it wasn't tense or quiet anymore. They were too dismayed to not let out their emotions out, which, for some reason, was in the form of screaming. They were both running around like children who thought they saw a ghost. They ran in circles, not removing their astonished faces. Usopp slammed himself on the floor, clutching his hair while yelling, "What?" And Frankie plopped himself on one of the chairs and covered his mouth in doubt. They both knew they were being extremely mean for being surprised Nami took the future Pirate King's interest, but it was such an unbelievable thought they made, they couldn't help being so taken back. It created so many questions, but one stood tall from the rest. Does Nami know she's dating Luffy? No, scratch that. Are they really dating in the first place? 'Cause if so, it wouldn't be a problem. But if they aren't and Luffy believes they are, that's a problem. Usopp decided they were surprised long enough and talked of the thought. Now that I think about it, of course it'd be Nami that'll steal Luffy's heart. Ever since I met those two and observed them together, them dating has always crossed my mind. But I stopped thinking about it whenever he'd keep calling her a friend. He scratched his head. If they were dating, wouldn't they tell us? Even if they didn't say it directly, their actions towards each other would speak much more. They never did anything romantic together. And Robin being her would have told us if she saw Luffy and Nami doing anything couple-like. So does that mean? Frankie nodded his head. It means exactly what you think it means. They aren't dating at all and Nami is unaware Luffy thinks so. It was honestly, not only shocking, but so intriguing. Usopp and himself just discovered Luffy actually has those kind of feelings for the cat burglar. The girl, he likes her. The captain can't be so stupid to say they're dating without having real feelings for her. But then again, that boy is dense and misunderstands things easily. What if he mistook Usopp's words? What if he really doesn't know what he's doing and is still clueless as to what liking someone means? If that's the case, he would be hurting Nami extremely if she secretly likes him. The shipwright's head began to ache. Does Nami like him like that, in the first place? Today's going to be pretty weird. Mugiwara is going to freak out everybody with his actions towards the navigator. No way. Usopp flipped over and pushed himself up to sit with legs crossed. He seemed relaxed, not worrying about it. He might think they're dating, but Luffy probably doesn't know the basics like kissing, hugging, and holding hands. He didn't know what dating was anyways. Quote dot. So he won't do anything too strange, I'm sure. A sigh escaped the cyborg's lips as he made a face saying, "Oops." Well, he laughed awkwardly. Let's just say that a little birdie had told him how to treat the woman you're dating. Usopp shrugged. He still didn't seem nervous. He really believes Luffy is a huge idiot. What's the worst you could have told him? Frankie frowned at his relaxation. Luffy liking someone romantically frightened him, but what Luffy will do to the navigator next won't. Clearly I had no idea what went in Luffy's head about him and Nami, so I simply told him hugging her by the waist is a good way to show you treasure her. Hugging her is a sign saying you'll protect her by all means. He liked it but said no because she'll get mad if he touched her. Then I simply said if she loves you, she wouldn't mind, and he told me I was right and left. Now knowing the context and why he asked such a thing, he felt guilty for him since Nami will sure give him a beating for touching her around that area randomly. Or will she get flustered? Robin's words repeatedly played in his head, but he chose to think about it another day. He wondered if the sharpshooter isn't so calm, and he was right, for he covered his face with both hands. Promoted stories. You'll also like. Mistake. 5.7k 289. All the relations are tied with a very weak string. Sanji, cook of the Straw Hats, no one knows about his family, his past, no one cared about it as they continued to th. Canyon Moon, One Piece. 53.1k 1.2k. In which a girl that's terrible at baking, but great with knives meets a bunch of pirates. Or in which a girl is trying to find her family and finds different. My One Piece Book 1 11.6k 278. Monkey D. Luffy, a cheerful, carefree young man from East Blue wearing a straw hat set sail on a small boat carrying the biggest dream of finding the One Piece. He's R. The God Fruit, One Piece. 27k 638. The Straw Hat Pirates, after defeating Doflamingo, depart from their newfound friends and make their way back into the New World. They end up on a small summer island sea. Ultimate Devil Fruit, One Piece fanfic. 197k 6.1k. Clarity lived a fairly normal life, at least she did until she was thrown into the world of devil fruits and pirates. Stuck in the grasps of her own hell for over 10 years. Luffy's jealousy. 72.8k 1.5k. Pairings. Luffy x Nami. What if the infamous Mugiwara crew docked on an unknown island? What if Nami had forgot? Dream Op X Reader. 49.9k 2.4k. When one looks back to their childhood, one remembers the vivid springs of laughter, climbing trees and reaching out for the stars, and making flower crowns in fields of. The long-nosed male groaned. Poor Luffy, if he ever finds Nami and does it, not only will he get punched for touching her waist but also for entering the kitchen. Oh yeah, he completely forgot to make sure he wouldn't go into the kitchen. Orders from the Orange Head. What is she doing in there that she doesn't want Luffy to see? She's making macarons. Usopp stared up at the ceiling. Didn't she tell you? He shook his head. Don't think so, but for what? Then came Usopp's proud laughter as if he knew something Frankie didn't. Since I know about you and Robin as well, I was the only one Nami told. Oh, he slowly got off of the ground and crossed his arms smugly. He approached the factory's door to then turn around and grin. Why don't you find out at dinner? And he exited out of the factory in a dash after words were said. Frankie stretched his arms and legs and placed his glasses on top of his head. His legs made its way out of the factory, pushing the door and being on the Thousand Sunny's deck. Smart move, Long Nose, he chuckled softly. You knew my patience wore out, how dare you not give me a real answer? His eyes met with the library's door and headed to it, knowing Robin would be sticking her nose in another book. Blank, underscore, blank. Congratulations to Frankie for finally having the guts to admit his feelings for Robin. Nami cried, holding up her mug of booze. Cheers, and everyone raised up their drinks and laughed. Upon his entrance to the kitchen, he expected plates of food to be gone since he was late for dinner. Frankie had such a great nap and thought the day would end with him happily eating what's left of dinner and spending more time with Robin at the library. How very wrong of him to assume. What the hell is this? His peach-colored face exploded into the darker shades of red as he stared at the banner saying, Congratulations. And hearing what Nami said so proudly, even if it wasn't a surprise party of some sort, they definitely succeeded in surprising him. Frankie-san. Robin called him over, patting the available seat on the couch. How kind of you to join us. She gave him a reassuring smile and took her eyes off him to look at the crew. The evening's atmosphere was like usual as food was practically being inhaled while Sanji competed with the men's appetite and kept cooking up a storm. The only difference is that Nami had held a celebration and asked Sanji to cook more food for tonight. She would, of course, give him a great amount of money to buy more food the next time they hit an island and to say thank you. But as they ate and ate, what lingered on their mind is that two crewmates had gotten together. The navigator gulped down her fourth bottle of booze and pointed at the cyborg across from her. "Oh Frankie, help yourself. Sanji isn't cooking for only these idiots." Zoro, like all the other guys at the table, struggled with finishing off his plate before a stretching hand would come to steal it. As a consequence of not appreciating his food, though he wouldn't be able to because of his hungry captain, some had got stuck in his throat because of forcing so many helpings at once. He was choking and everyone was too busy to notice. Irritating as it was, the swordsman had to get out of this situation himself. An untouched glass of water was right in front of him, perfect for Zoro's taking. But also perfect for others taking as well. Luffy leaned back on his chair and patted his large belly that would disappear after a while. "All that food is making me thirsty." Though drinks were right in front of him, he wasn't feeling booze right now, but water sounded amazing. The moss head used his left arm to reach for the glass, his fingers already about to grip it. Until another stretched arm had appeared and took the one thing he really needed. "That damn captain. She. Thanks Zoro. You knew just what I needed, but I can get it myself, you know." Luffy grinned, gulping down the cold, refreshing water. The swordsman would kill for another glass of water to appear. He would have targeted Luffy for that since he was pissed at him for stealing his food and the water he was obviously aiming for. Luckily, the very kind reindeer, the only one who took notice, screamed when seeing what state he was in. "Gah!" Chopper turned into his human-like form and went to his side. "Zoro's choking. We need a doctor ASAP." The reindeer stood there, waiting for his crew mates to take more initiative instead of seemingly looking calm. But then he realized why they didn't seem to panic. They already trusted someone to handle such situations. And here he was. "Oh, that's me." The strong animal forced the napper off his seat and put his arms around the guy's stomach from behind. "Okay, 1. Chopper tugged his arms onto his stomach, trying to make Zoro spit out the stuck food. 2. He did it once more and prayed that the third would be a charm. 3. With Cammy's kindness, the third was a charm and the food flew out of Zoro's throat and hit Brook's head. "Yo ho ho, a bone, how careless of you," Brook said when seeing what Zoro choked on and the moss head tsked in embarrassment. But after now being able to breathe, he pulled out one of his katanas and was prepared to slice his captain up into little pieces. "You moron, if you didn't steal any food, I wouldn't have to hurry in eating my meal and wouldn't have choked." Luffy didn't feel threatened at all. He thought his first mate was doing some performance, so he only laughed in response. Nami knew Zoro wouldn't dare hurt his captain but still wanted to separate the two before any accidents happen. She grabbed his broad shoulders and pulled his body backwards. "Enlighten up, Zoro, we still have macarons," she smiled, distracting him from his katana wanting to hit Luffy. Fine." Robin firmly rested her head onto Frankie's metal arm. She giggled softly at her crew's behavior. "It sure is lively tonight. Kenshi-san was about to kill our captain." The cyborg's cheek turned pink. "Yeah, but it's good they're focusing on anything other than the news Nami said earlier." Okay, listen up. Sanji and I made macarons for Robin and Frankie's day, ha ha ha. She held a tray of the two flavors in each hand and presented it on one side of the long table and then on the other side. Enjoy. Spoke too soon, I'm afraid. With her powers, her hand emerged from the table and grabbed two cookie and cream macarons. It was then in her grasp at the couch and she handed one to the shipwright. His deep frown did not went unnoticed to her as he threw the delicious treat in his mouth. Oh, please don't be too upset. She chuckled at him. If you're angry, it should be me who you're angry at, not Nami. She had a point. Frankie tore his glare at Nami and met eye contact with Robin. That's true. How else would she have known? I'm sorry I didn't listen to you. You did want to keep it a secret for at least a day. Now everyone knows. He gave her the biggest smile he can make. What can we do about it? Everyone seems to accept it and that's what matters. Hesitantly, he bent his head to kiss Robin's forehead and she kindly laughed at his action. Usopp sighed, staring away at the love scene he and Nami just witnessed. Everyone was absorbed with the macarons that it hadn't occurred to them the couple was sitting together in the corner. Young love, he murmured as he ate, this time, a matcha-flavored macaron. You did a good job, Nami. The navigator, beside him, smiled. You can't say that when they're older than you. And thank you. She told him as she ate Sanji's incredible cookie and cream treats. Delicious as always. I just really miss Kaya. The long-nosed guy blurted out. His cheeks flushed when he realized how careless he was for saying such. Nami sipped her booze slowly this time. You two were a great match. Though I'm sure she'll drop you if she figured out you were telling her complete lies. And the sharpshooter laughed at that. She'll surely be upset the first time around. But, as much as he hates to say this, putting the conversation of Kaya aside, he couldn't help but think of the relationship Nami and Luffy have. He thought of just simply asking her. The atmosphere was perfect for it and she wasn't drunk nor was she sober. This was a good chance. He could at least get something out of her, no matter how unimportant it is about what she felt towards Luffy. If she felt anything, that is, hey Nami. The navigator had put her head down on the dinner table. She didn't look up at him. The long nose put his elbow onto the table and rested his chin on his hand. He glanced over at Luffy who wore his signature smile while savoring the dessert with Chopper and Zoro. Surprisingly the guy didn't stuff his cheeks full of macarons. He instead took his time. Though Usopp was talking with Nami, he kept his eyes on his captain and noticed how he rarely touched the cookie and cream ones. It seemed he enjoyed the matcha ones the best and he made that very clear by shouting, "These are great." The captain's glance towards the navigator wasn't missed by the sharpshooter. Usopp was just about to shake her shoulder but decided that wasn't the wisest of decisions. You hear that? He's complimenting you. Nami still didn't pick up her head off the table. A mere, was her only response. I wanted to ask if you liked anyone in the way I like Kaya. His gaze met upon Sanji's figure. Behind the Marimo, he snatched his and Nami's macarons off the tray and popped one into his mouth. Seeing that both trays were nearly empty, he went back to the kitchen to retrieve another two. She was barely audible before but Nami's voice was well heard even with her face all over the dining table. How can I when my main focus before was to earn money? Even now, I'm stuck on the sea. There's never a chance for that. So, you can like someone on board. And he knew it caught her attention very well by the way she stopped tapping her fingers on one of the glass cups. It's not impossible. Look at Frankie and Robin. He thought staring at her for too long or saying something interesting would stop her from burying her face in her left arm as she slouched onto the table. But she still didn't budge. Do you like anyone on here that way? And surely he had struck a nerve and Nami went stiff altogether. Gotcha. The cat burglar didn't understand why she was letting him ask such. With her fist, he can knock him out for a few minutes to stray from this topic and get out of there before he asks any further questions. But somehow, she allowed for this conversation to continue. She was feeling great today, she had to admit. Mainly because the clever, female devil fruit user has been clearly happy nowadays, which made Nami happy too. What's the harm in Usopp's question anyways? A lot actually, but she can always avoid it, not giving him much of an answer. He knew if he pushed her to say more, he'd only be on the ground in pain as a result. That's ridiculous. She started off. All the men on here are complete idiots. I wouldn't even dream to be in a relationship with one of them. Oi, Nami. Zoro's deep voice had been heard in front of her. Luffy wants to know when you'll bake more often so he can be there to help. Oh, and he told me to tell you he really likes the. He paused his sentence to see the orange head not paying attention to him. He can hear her mumbling but didn't make up the words she was saying. Are you listening? Which? His name for her should strike a fight. Seeing her pick up her own head showed he was right. Haha, did that upset you? Well, you weren't listening, so, boy, are you okay? With Nami's face now being revealed, her cheeks were so red that you'd think she was drunk. But Nami is never drunk. That's a trait Zoro found impressive but also despised. Her talent of having no max to drinking caused his debt to only grow larger whenever they had competitions. She sat down straight this time and looked down at the table. Liking someone, in this crew, that's. Nami didn't understand why she was suddenly taking his question so seriously. Maybe it's because of how warm it is in here. Her face felt way too hot. It must be messing with her rationally because she's starting to say unnecessary things now. Even if I did like someone, she kept quiet all of a sudden. The swordsman raised a brow. What are you talking about, woman? And he looked over at Usopp, who had been keeping her company, for an answer. His eyes completely focused on her, showing he was eager to hear what she'll say next. Don't look at him, don't look at him. Nami thought in her head repeatedly. If you do, Usopp will know. She cursed herself. What was she doing? She refused to blame herself for her behavior. Stupid heat. It's nighttime. Shouldn't it be chilly? Yeah, Nami. Let's hear it. What are you talking about? Usopp eagerly smiled. He was jumping up and down his seat in a way. If she ever gives a glance at Luffy, that means she does like him. Come on, Nami. Just meet eyes with her. Oh no, oh no, 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 this was not at all what he was expecting. Nami glanced over at Zoro, who stayed confused as ever and quickly looked away. Damn it, am I stupid? Her face burst into the same color as her red shorts she was wearing that moment. She furrowed her eyebrows and embarrassingly frowned. She knew very well that's the reaction he wanted. Even while knowing, why would she do that then? I couldn't help myself. He wanted to so desperately know who Nami likes. He wanted her to look at him after she kept denying of having feelings for a crew member. All this could be avoided if she just acted like usual and cut off all that talk with a fist to his face. No hesitance whatsoever, her fist then flew into Usopp's face. Idiot, do you think I didn't see through your plan? I was only messing with you. I wasn't serious at all, you know. If she acted like this, maybe the coward would dismiss her strange words. I'm not like you. I'm not crazy in love with anyone like you or with Kaya. She stuck her tongue out at him and grinned at his growing red cheeks. Nami, shut up. Seeing how she made Usopp feel embarrassed was much better than for her to be that way. But she felt awkward after that. She was sitting by herself now that the long nose was punched off of his seat. Could that be the reason? Unlikely. His stare was too obvious, Nami finally concluded to herself. Before she could even look up, Zoro shifted his position of standing up from sitting down across from her. Thought she wasn't sure if her punch and words dismissed Usopp, it sure seemed to work on Zoro. He was unbothered, probably thinking she was just being her usual self. He was half right to say the least. The sizzle of a cap popping out was heard below the table, and as his hand emerged out of it, a bottle of beer is what he held. He tightened his grip and tilted his head back to take a few chugs of the drink. When done, he met Nami's eyes and pointed at the beer a bit farther down the table. She shook her head, rejecting the idea of drinking some more. After a good 3 to 4 minutes passed, realizing he was just there and didn't really need anything from her, she pushed her hands onto the table to get herself off the seat and sped towards the kitchen's door. With a push and a close of the door, she stretched her arms and took in the amazing feeling of the nighttime air. She had no clue why it was so hot in the kitchen to begin with. Sanji had stopped cooking for a while. Her feet was just about to lead her near the edge of the ship, to stare at the dark ocean waves and stars up in the sky, but was interrupted by the creak of the door closing behind her. She wasn't surprised that it was him who decided to come outside, too. Usopp coughed so loud to get Frankie's attention. The cyborg took his arm off of Robin's shoulders and nodded his head frantically, saying he saw that too. They tried communicating with each other by mouthing their statements across the room, but it was too difficult. He looked over at Robin and apologized. She nodded her head, understanding what he meant, and he went to sit next to Usopp to hear each other more clearly. How should we tell this to Luffy? The long nose said, already sympathizing for the rubber man, I really thought she liked him. Robin said so, too. But after that scene, yeah, I know, I can't believe she likes Zoro. He disappointedly shook his head. Why else would she say she likes someone and then glance at Zoro instead of Luffy? She could have easily punched me without looking at anyone. Frankie agreed. Yeah, he then deadpanned. Wait, that's still not a good thing on your part. And you can't argue with me that she glancing at Zoro didn't mean a thing, because it did. She was blushing after meeting eyes with him. Usopp looked across the room. They were pretty loud, he had to admit. Of course the rest of the crew could care less about what he and Frankie were talking about. But, generally speaking, when you hear your name being said, it's like instinct to want to know what for. Zoro can have sharp ears sometimes, so why isn't he confronting them about a conversation that's about him? Hey, wait a minute, where is he? There was a reason why it was said that Zoro doesn't have the most sharpest ears, because that entire skill is already given to someone else. Kenshi-san, Robin asked, confirming if that's who he was talking about. At a slight nod said enough. He just left. He followed Nami out, did you not notice? What? Usopp yelled. He looked over at Luffy and he can see his captain staring out of the kitchen's door small window. He frowned a tiny bit, looking either disappointed to see Nami leave or disappointed Zoro went after her first. Usopp couldn't even come to a conclusion for it, because with a snap, his mood changed so quickly and he went back to mess around with Brook and Sanji. as if not knowing the expression he made when seeing her gone. Oh Luffy, blank, underscore, blank. Busy week because it's testing time and that's greater than sad face. This chapter has been finished days ago, it just needed editing and a double check. So I'm on Summit War right now for One Piece, and if you don't know, this story will be pre-times KIP. I think that even if I watch the arcs after the 2-year time skip, I'll enjoy the original One Piece days better. So I'd rather write during those times. I liked writing scenes where Usopp and Frankie interact with one another. They really have a good bond, and I want that for this story as well. Brook. I must add more Brook into here, but I'll try to dial down on the skeleton jokes because it annoys me, too. Vote and comment if you like, it's all up to you. See you next month. Where stories live. Discover now.